Let me tell you about the time I was tailed by the intelligence services in England, the MI5 I'm assuming, or it could have been the police. It was in 2012 in Cambridge in England. Let me tell you what led up to that. In the spring I did a major event with John Perkins, Confessions of an Economic Hitman, that was organised by my friend Ian O'Crane, and there was a huge event in London, very high profile. There was like 600-700 people there, and my presentation went down fantastic. It was on psychopaths in public life, and I was mentioned in the thing that Tony Blair was absolutely showed all the traits of a psychopath. Almost immediately after this happened, I was attacked by a flying saucer death cult, comet death cult in France, who used to boast about their connections to George Soros. And they live in a palace in France while calling everybody else con artists, and basically they channel themselves as super beings in the future. Now this cult, this religious organisation, or whatever you want to call themselves, a family, they actually call themselves they're living in a compound and they call themselves a family. They had attacked me and ran a smear campaign which prevented me from doing a talking event at the Labour Club in Cambridge. They had basically said that they would cause riots and stuff like that. Classic Salman Rushdie type religious fanatics doing an attack on free speech. The same tactics used by the Soros-funded SJWs today. So there's another link there. Now, this when that gig was cancelled, and I ended up being transferred to a pub in Cambridge. It was full of plants. I have the video. It's shocking. They filled it. I mean, I got through the presentation. I handled it well, and I reached most of the people there. But they had flooded the place with drunks, and the SWP had showed up to try and sabotage it. Again, this is another Soros front. And the next day, I was touring around Cambridge, and it took one of those boats with two women who turned out to be quite disgusting creatures, and possibly were also involved in this setup for me. And I was touring around Cambridge, punting on a boat, and the usual touristy thing, and not really enjoying myself because Cambridge has a horrible demonic energy about it, and everyone that lives there seems to be just horrible. And there was a young guy with a camera in front of me on the boat, pretending to be a tourist, but he kept holding down the shutter, pointing it towards me. It was a very high-end camera, a very clean-cut guy. He looked like military or something. Very fit, nice, attractive English guy. And I'm absolutely convinced, I knew right there and then that he was tailing me. This guy was definitely tailing me. I saw him around the town a few times, pointing the camera at me deliberately. Now, it may seem like almost Keystone Cops, but this is one of the things I read from reading the book Spycatcher, and also having spoken to David Shayler at an event, former MI5 agent, at an event in Southampton last year, that the Keystone, and David Shayler is 100% legit. 100% legit. The man, I wouldn't agree with everything the man says, but in terms of what he's telling us about his time with MI5, he's completely on the level. He's telling us the truth. And he told me that that even during the days of the Troubles, when the IRA were doing weapons drops in like remote areas of Scotland, the MI5 guys used to show up and just observe. And a lot of it has to do with almost like a crazy-making thing. They want you to be paranoid. They want you to be freaked out. They don't really have a lot of powers of arrest and things like that. So it's almost like an intimidation, a gaslighting thing. And they were definitely doing that to me. And I have to say it did work. It actually worked much better than what the cult had done to me, because I'm not a political activist. I don't really care about politics. I definitely would never get involved in politics. I was stating that Tony Blair showed all the signs of a psychopath, not because I have a political agenda, but because, or anything like that. They might have thought that I was involved in the Provos or something like that. And anyone who knows me knows I'm incredibly anti-Republican, and because I don't believe that is the path for Irish independence, and never was. And also, I just don't care about politics. My statement on Tony Blair was completely based on the fact that what happened with the weapons and the mass destruction and the Iraq War. It had no political mandate. His behaviour was like that and very dubious. And to this day, he's only acted more and more bizarre, doing things like setting up peace foundations while the guy bombed the shit out of millions of civilians. Now, kind of like a Constantine type character when you think about it. Anyway, that's what happened, and as I said, I'm not a political activist. I'm interested in all kinds of subjects, and the psychopathic thing was my way of dealing with the shit I'd had to deal with in, you know, both on a kind of a macro level growing up in Ireland during the Troubles, but also the shit I'd seen when I worked in Wall Street and places like that. It was like a cathartic thing for me. But it gave me a career as a writer, and it introduced me to a very large global audience, which has only increased ever since. As I've delved into the subjects that my heart is really in, like ancient sites, megaliths, magic, and all the Fortean stuff, which I love and completely. And I also love the idea of I love the study of mind control and social engineering and this kind of thing. And that's what happened there. I think absolutely it confirmed to me what Jacques Vallée had said in Messengers of the Deception, that these UFO cults are directly connected to the intelligence services, and that's who primarily funds them. They're although you have like freaky New Age creeps inside them who do things like are sent out to target New Age women, rich New Age women, to try and get their money off them. It's, you know, by calling them goddesses and all this kind of stuff. Primarily the money comes from the intelligence services, and everywhere, wherever cults are, everywhere, these kind of doomsday flying saucer cults, they're also hoovering operations. They're ways of finding out. You'll see they're often vehemently anti-Israel or vehemently pro-Israel. They're trying to find the troublemakers on both sides. They're getting lists of names on both sides and handing them back to the intelligence services. And so that was my brush with it. 2012 was the year that the intelligence services came after me. Possibly MI5 in England, but it could have been anything really at the end of the day. But it was an amazing experience. It was quite disturbing, I have to say, because I don't see myself as a threat to society. Although a lot of people say you are, because your working psychopaths woke up a lot of people to what politicians actually are and how governments and big corporations function. But I didn't set out to do it to make people politically aware or politically activated. It was more of a case of I was trying to say, look, if they're at the top, they're on the street and they're in your life. And that's really what my work was all about, and that's why I think it will stand for years to come. It wasn't based on some kind of hysteria or trying to portray myself as some kind of great savior of humanity, because frankly I couldn't give a fuck about humanity. Thank you. So that was my time with being tailed by the intelligence services. I care about humanity that are worth caring about, and I don't mean that in an elitist way. I mean in the sense that, look around you. Today is Black Friday. I don't care about those ones in the Black Friday queue. I care about the ones sitting at home who know it's bullshit. That's who I care about.